I remember I did a focus group with a bunch of young single women. And I said, when you hear the word submit, tell me some words that come to mind. And I just wrote out words on the board, and they were all profoundly negative. And let me tell you something. I don't blame any of them, because most of them were thinking about being abused by domineering men that don't have their best interests in mind. Frankly, they were thinking about Lamech and the culture of the day. And I'd say, you're right. But don't throw away the ideal because of its abuses. Let's talk about what this means, because this is given from a God who's good and cares about us. He's not trying to hurt you. He's trying to set you free. So what does he mean when he says this to women? Let's talk about what he doesn't mean, and then let's talk about what he does mean. What he doesn't mean with that word submit is subjugation. That one human being subjugates another, or in this case, men subjugating women. That's not what it means. There's actually nowhere in the Bible where any human being is called to subjugate another human being. The person with that power is God alone. This word, the verb, is in the middle tense in Greek. And what does the middle tense of a verb mean? The middle tense means you do that verb to yourself. This is a call to women that they have a choice, and they freely choose to enter into this relationship with a man that works in a certain way. So this isn't all women submitting to all men. It doesn't work that way. I've had girls tell me, how do I submit to my boyfriend? And my answer is, you don't. I don't even know what that means. This is talking about a woman entering into a covenant of marriage, which is a serious thing. And so when I enter into that, I'm taking on a different level of responsibilities with this particular person, what the text will say later, your own husband. This isn't all men, this is that guy that I'm committing to treat him in a certain way. And so this isn't him domineering me, and it's not servitude. It's not me saying that I become his maid. It's not me saying I become less than. It's not me saying that I'm second place. Ontologically, we are equal. It is always presented that way, that women and men are co-heirs of the very grace of God. This is not meant to diminish women at all. It doesn't mean that you have to sit back and be silent. It doesn't mean that women don't talk. Look at Proverbs 31. The Proverbs 31 woman is launching small businesses, buying and selling real estate. She's getting stuff done. So this isn't telling some woman to just go sit in the back and wait for someone to call on you. That's not what's happening in this text, okay? That's the abuse, not the good. That's ice creams, not gelato. So what does the word mean? Well, what it means, and let me give you a very wooden way to say it, submission for a wife is an inclination to receive and affirm a husband's leadership. It's an inclination to receive and affirm a husband's leadership. Now, we'll talk about what leadership means in a minute, but let's just talk about that for a minute. I like the word inclination because what it means is it talks about a general disposition or posture. It doesn't mean that a woman can't initiate. It doesn't mean, well, I have a good idea about how to solve this problem for my family, but I'm the woman, so I'm supposed to wait till he figures it out, even though all of us figured it out a few days ago. Let's just wait, he'll get there. Come on, baby. Like, that's not what this is saying. Women present ideas, make decisions, all that kind of stuff. But there's a general disposition that says, I want to understand that when this man took on the role of husband, he shouldered some responsibility under God. That God will tell him, as a husband, you are supposed to use that male strength to position the world in such a way where that woman wins and those kids win. That men use power. They have it. And often in the world today, they use it for selfishness, and women and children lose. Look at the statistics. And yet when a man becomes a husband, it says you take that power and you channel it towards caring for that woman and caring for those children in a fully orbed way. And if you don't, I'm coming after you. That's what God says. That's why when he showed him the garden, he says, Adam, where are you? What have you done? That's why Peter says to the man, you treat that woman right. If not, God does not want to hear you pray. That this whole different weight is put on that man to use his power for her. And you want him to feel that. You want him to feel that kind of weight, that under God, I'm meant to treat her like she's God's daughter. For me, I have an expectation for a man, if he's even going to make eye contact with my daughter. And if he treats her wrong, he's got to deal with me. And I want him to be aware. I love you, all smiles. I'm going to assume you're a friend to start, but if you go sideways, I'm coming for you, son. He needs to feel that from the father. And men are meant to feel that. Under God, I need to use my power and my strength in a way that help this woman and these children win. I need to feel that. You want him to. If we look at the problems of the world today, I don't know any that are saying, well, the problem is men that are initiating too much on behalf of their family. That is not the issues you see in the world today. And let me tell you something. Most women I talk to, they want a man who will initiate. They long for it. I did this thought exercise with a group of young single women once. Actually, a stadium full of them. I said, ladies, just put it in a dating context. What guy would you rather go on a date with? A guy that says, hey, do you want to go out? And you say yes, you get in his car, and when you get in the car, he goes, so what do you want to do? Or do you want to have the guy that when you get in the car, he goes, okay, I did some research, wasn't sure what you were in the mood for, so I was looking at a bunch of different restaurants. I found this awesome little seafood place right along the coast. I figured we could eat there. It's got big windows, and then we could walk along the waterfront. I thought that'd be cool. Or if you're not feeling that, there's also this little Italian place that's kind of tucked into the city. It's got this little garden patio, and we could just kind of have a more intimate vibe like that. So I wasn't sure what you're feeling, so I narrowed it down. What are you feeling? Seafood, Italian, where are you at? Ladies, which guy would you rather go on a date with? The initiator or Captain, what do you want to do? When I presented this to a room full of women, no one cheered for this man. This guy got a standing ovation. And nobody was like, 2 restaurants? You trying to impress me? Trying to hold me back? You trying to limit me? No, they appreciated the initiation and gladly received it and affirmed it. And that's what you want. You want to see a guy that's initiating on behalf of your good. And when he does it, affirm that. Affirm it. Get a posture where you go, he's called to do that. And when he does it, I want to celebrate it. So much of the pain in this world today is from the passivity of men. And let me tell you something, a lot of you feel that. You would have loved, as a little girl, for your dad to come up to you and say, get in the car, baby, let's go. I got some errands to run, you're riding with me today. Some of you, your deepest wounding as a man is that your dad never initiated a conversation where he said, boy, let me tell you what I really think about you. And he said, I love you, and I'm by your side, and I care about you, and I see beautiful things that God's put in you, and I want to help you win in life. You long for that statement, and you've gone down many broken roads looking to fill that void. You long for the initiation of a man. It's hurt you when he didn't. And so when a guy is going to do it, receive it, affirm it, because what's celebrated is repeated. So when you see him take his first fumbling steps towards spiritual initiation, maybe we should go to church, affirm it. Don't be like, well, it's about time you finally figured that out. Don't do it. Because let me let you in on a secret. Most men I talk to are afraid to lead because leading's scary. If you say, let's go, and turn around and no one's following you, it's a little embarrassing. There's a vulnerability to leading. And so when a guy makes the decision to initiate, affirm that. As much as you can, celebrate what you can celebrate. Now, let me say this. As I talk about that, I know a lot of women hear this and they get fearful because you go, well, if this is what's going to happen, do I lose freedoms? He's going to hurt me. He's going to take me away I don't want to go. I'm scared of marriage because it's going to ruin my life. Most people, this whole idea of a man leading terrifies me because you think he's going to micromanage me or he's going to crush my dreams. And let me tell you something, that's not leadership. Micromanagement, crushing your dreams is called bad leadership. Don't marry that guy. That's why who you marry is so important. Don't work for that boss. If you have a good leader, you celebrate. I remember for me, when my first job out of college was the first idea, just the thought crossed my mind, there might be a man that has some authority in my life, and I hated it. I realized I have an issue with authority. Like I took a test recently, and it just kind of had a spectrum of human beings, and on one end of the spectrum was, man, I take instruction well, and the other end is, I hate it. It causes bile to rise in my throat, like, don't you tell me what to do. And I was over here. Like I was like, wow, in a class all my own. I'm like, that's really fascinating how much I resist the thought of you telling me what to do. But I showed up at this job, and I'll tell you the way this pastor led me. I was in charge of the youth ministry, and anytime we had a meeting, he would say, hey, Ben, what do you need? He said, what are you thinking about doing? What do you want to do? What do you want to see happen with these kids? How can I help you? And I realized after a while, he was studying me to see what my gifts were and then trying to think about how to set me up to use them and make them better. And then he was studying me to figure out what my vision was and trying to figure out how to access whatever resources we had to make it happen. And there was some guiding to it, but I never felt restricted. I actually felt liberated. I got to be more me, not less, because of him. And I was glad to have him. And that's what this is talking about. We'll get to the guy in a second, but you need to go, hey, you know what? God has positioned him in a place where he's going to initiate, and I want to respond in a way that affirms him. That I say, when I see him taking those first steps, I say, okay, I celebrate that. That's awesome. Let's do that. You want to do a Nate night? Yeah. Because here's the motivation in Ephesians 5:22. It says, wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord. And you go, what does as to the Lord mean? It means motivation, that now a function of my spirituality is how I treat that man. That it's not just, well, I worship God over here and then I deal with this guy over here. Like, no, God will be worshiped by the way I treat this guy. Those are now intertwined. So it's motivation and also comparison. It says the husband's the head of the wife as Christ, the head of the church's body. As the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit in everything to their husbands. And that freaks people out too. They're like, in everything? What if he wants me to do something illegal? Yes, there are caveats to that. If your husband's like, let's start a cartel, the answer is no. Don't do it, because his leadership is always subject to God's leadership, right? And so, no, don't follow him into sin. But what this saying is it's trying to take this and show you the weight of marriage. Marriage is not a trifling thing. And here's the thing, whether you agree with any of this or not, when you bind yourself to someone romantically, they have extraordinary power in your life. Even if you're just living together. They impact your sense of self, your sense of value, your sense of worth, your financial decisions, your future. So much enormous power is being handed to that person, whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously. What the Bible is saying here is when you enter into a covenant, make sure it's a guy who's taken his cues from your king. And then when you knit together with him, your pursuit of the Lord is now lockstep with that man. So choose well. Get a good man that has a standard of morality outside of you, that wants to treat you well because he fears the Lord. And when you get a guy like that, let him know you believe in him. Let him know you trust him. Let him know when he does something great, you're going to affirm that. Don't shame him in front of other people, but celebrate him. Build him up, because he needs that.